This is a Fubar Radio podcast. If you need any more information, head to fubarradio.com.
Sarah Love and Mice Diggy on Fubar Radio.
Yeah, this is Verb T.
Pitch 92.
And you're listening to the Hip-Hop Show on Fubar Radio with Mice Diggy.
Sarah Love.
Yeah.
And welcome to the studio, Jonny Gould.
Oh, it's my pleasure to be here, guys.
Hey.
It's so lovely to have you here.
Your station is so famous.
Is it?
Really?
Fubar Radio is so famous.
Oh,
In what way?
infamous. No.
Infamous is like the next level, isn't it?
Are we
No,
the
but
troublemakers of
yeah,
the sharewaves?
there's a rebelness about it. And when it was set up for me, this interview, I thought, this is great. And then it's the hip-hop show, so I feel like I'm coming home.
Yeah, man, because we were just talking on air, off air about you got quite a bit of a hip-hop past.
Yeah,
You've been
I've always been into hip-hop. I perhaps lost my way a little bit as I got older and as I started putting a suit on. But when I was a kid, hip-hop was it. And I had an almighty shock. Because, of course, you know, it gave birth with the Sugar Hill Gang, didn't it? And,
in a way, yeah.
And I was in Miami Beach at a hotel, and there were these 50-year-old guys rapping. And I was looking at them. I honestly, I was looking at these guys, and they were rapping in a row. There was a DJ behind him, and they were mixing the Sugar Hill Gang's Rapper's Delight, and they were rapping live. And I thought, God, these guys know the lyrics just like they're the Sugar Hill Gang. They were the Sugar Hill Gang. I swear I was standing in like this to you, and I thought, oh my God, this is just unbelievable.
Yeah.
Wow.
For this vintage.
No,
Yeah.
I could tell by your glasses frames that there was a bit of hip-hop flavour to you.
It's like that, and it's just the way it is.
Oh, yeah! Oh,
Yeah.
yeah! Sorry,
That's
that means all of
hilarious.
those.
Thank you so much.
That's wicked, man.
But it was my absolute pleasure to be able to get you on the show today because, you know, you're here to represent a project that is close to my heart as well. And there's a re-release of a book called Striker Boy. It's a children's book, Striker Boy, which was authored by my family's next-door neighbour, the late, great Jonny Zucker.
Jonny Zucker is the inspiration behind this campaign. It is a mental health campaign, and we say that in the most tragic way we could. Jonny took his own life approximately a year ago, leaving behind 3 gorgeous boys, Fiona as well, to fend for themselves, except to say that I think deep in Jonny's heart, he didn't mean to take his life. He was ill. And the mental illness got deeper and deeper. In his last couple of years, it got worse, and he wasn't really able to cope anymore, except to say that his glorious personality never quite disappeared altogether. And when he died, obviously, in the manner that he did, and the shock that it pervaded right through every community, everyone who loved him and knew him, I said to a very good friend of mine by the name of Nigel Cannon, who runs an educational software business not far from here in N7, let's not bury Jonny's work with him. He's not here to represent his own work, and he left an awful lot of good in this world. And I always liked Striker Boy. I had a tiny, weeny little hand in helping Jonny write it, in the sense that we came up with the name of various players, and Hatton Rangers, which is the name of the football team. It's a beautiful story about a 13-year-old boy who tells a little whopper and pretends to be 17 and saves his team from relegation. It's a proper great story.
It sounds like me trying to get in the club when I was 15.
Yeah, exactly.
15,
Exactly.
yeah.
But this is sort of playing for a Premier League club and trying to save them from relegation. I'm not going to ruin the plot. Of course, he saves them, of course, because it's a beautiful book. But the point is that Jonny spent his career trying to raise the bar for boy literacy. Okay, to get kids, male kids, to sort of start imagining and expanding their horizons and learning and reading and doing more to, you know, formulate their ideas, you know, to prepare them for employment, etc. And there's a lot of male dialogue in that book. And then he takes his own life, and he was 49, and the biggest killer of men under the age of 50 is suicide. And
Serious?
so all these male issues are coming together. And I just want to kind of spread the love of this fine man. I knew him for, I don't know, 40 years, 37 years, something like that. And he was an enormous personality who did a whole load of good. And it makes his passing all the more enraging. I'm furious. You know, I'm furious. I don't know who to be furious at.
Yeah, it's hard. It's
and, you know, could we have saved him? You know, you look back at all the little things that happened. in his life and in his world, and you just wonder, what can we do? Well, we can't do anything except to do this enormous good deed, I hope, for the charity. It's in aid of Mind.
Yeah, we know about Mind because we've had a couple of representatives come on before. Guy Fiskey, right?
I think so.
Yeah, he was, and it's to do. They have a poetry hip-hop night that they put on. I think we're going to have him in again maybe next week. Yeah, next week we've got him in again. So yeah, we're definitely quite knowledgeable about Mind.
Well, that's brilliant because £1.40. That's brilliant. How to get involved is simple. Striker Boy is a lovely book. If you've got a boy or a sort of a boy who is a man who loves his football, buy this book. It's £7. It's available by strikerboy.com. Follow us on Twitter at strikerboybook and also at Jonny Gould. I've got all the details there. £1.40 of the £7 goes to Mind charity, and you've got a little bit of a Christmas present for anyone who loves football. Well. It's really nice.
It's a nice uplifting book, and it's one of Jonny's fine works as well. And I was so flattered when I was this is maybe going back 2004 or something, and of course Jonny knew that I was a DJ, and so one day he came and knocked on the door and he was like, I've got an idea for a book. I'd love to write a book about a 14-year-old girl who wants to become a DJ. And so then he did all these interviews with me, asking me about what it is how you actually DJ, how do you get ready for a gig, what it means to be a DJ, in a male dominated thing, and all that kind of stuff. And then he released this book called One Girl, Two Decks, 3 Degrees of Love.
Oh, brilliant.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's, I was just so honoured and flattered to be able to contribute to something as lovely as that. And again, it's such a wonderful, uplifting story, encouraging young girls.
And what you say is insight into this book, because I am in football as well, or was in the past, and I read a lot of this. It was very credible. And I was thinking to myself, he must have talked, apart from being a football nut anyway, he was a big fan of football. He must have researched this. There was a lot of stuff, a lot of training examples, a lot of how players behave as well. And there was a bit of care in there because, of course, the Premier League is very, very involved in childcare now, in making sure that kids are looked after. And this boy was 13 in this fiction, and he was around sort of 24-year-old men who spend their mornings training and spending afternoons probably playing video games. And there's a lot of the kind of relationship between his disproportionate age and those sort of 27-year-old players double his age. But it is a beautiful book. He was a beautiful man. My cousin, Dr. Fiona Starr, is someone I grew up with in Birmingham.
Love Fee.
His boys and her boys are a credit. They're a fine example of what it is to be family. They look after each other. They're a bit of a tribe. They're a gang. They look after each other. Jake, the older brother, special mention for Jake. He is the older brother from heaven. He looks after those boys in a big way. He is assuming huge responsibility. And perhaps, I should say on air, perhaps he shouldn't. He doesn't need to play that new role. But he's a man in every sense of the word, and he's just a teenager.
It's so lovely seeing, how they are just the strength that I've seen them show at the young ages that they are and everything. But that's why, we often feel like that, I think, when you're grieving. Oh, what could I have done? Is that, even I felt it like that when I had heard that Jonny had taken his own life.
When it's suicide, it's like you can't get away from that feeling of maybe if I said this or if that, you just feel like, shit, is there something I could have done that could have, like in my family, we had someone really close pass away, and nobody really expected it, but then we found out that he'd already tried to do it years ago. Right. And to me, when he spoke to me about it, I thought he was just talking I was on the bench one time and I just had a bottle of drink in one hand and pills in the other, and I just thought, fuck it, But to me, that just sounded like, in his mind, that's how he felt. But then later, when he's actually done it, then you're like, shit, he was for real about that. And so I wanted to ask about Jonny Zucker. What was he diagnosed with anything at all?
Yeah, he was diagnosed with severe depression in his 20s.
In his 20s.
Fiona, in the early stages of their marriage, discovered Prozac in his pocket. He was diagnosed with depression afterwards. Every time he took on a career change, which perhaps didn't work out, you know, who doesn't have a career setback in their life? No one's made of steel.
Yeah.
We've all had moments of, oh, Christ, what am I going to do next? And when he had little moments, like he left primary school as a teacher, things didn't work out, so he went on to other things and he became a brilliant children's author. I was so proud of him throughout his time. I wanted to share in his success. He always seemed a bit reluctant, as though he didn't always believe in it, but I really meant it. I was excited by some of the things, and you know, the nearest I got to the creative process was this brilliant book, strikerboy.com, by the way. And he and you know, it's, I just really want to say to people who are like, you know, like your family member who took his own life, and Jonny for doing it. If people talk about it, another friend said to me one day casually, oh, I saw a train coming along and I thought, oh, shall I just jump in front of it? And you know, these things aren't funny. They're not. And I said to him, and he also knew Jonny. I said, "Are you gonna top?" I just came out. You know, he said, "No, I'm not." And he gave me some very sort of logical reasons. Well, I hope he bloody well doesn't, and that he learns and doesn't say those things again. It is mental health is like a physical problem.
Well, yeah,
it's a physical illness. It's like a cancer. It's in a person's head. It was in Jonny's head. He didn't do this out of malice. He didn't do this out of, I'll show them.
No, he was unwell.
He was unwell.
And this is, I think, you know, we need to have more dialogue about mental health, and it's not something to be ashamed to talk about.
That's right.
In my experience, I think depression is part of the human experience, you know, but it's almost a taboo subject. I always remember being taught as a kid, you know, when you see someone's broken their leg, you can see that you need to hold the door open for them. You can see something's wrong because they're on crutches. They've got a plaster on their leg. When with mental health, you can't necessarily see that something's wrong with somebody and that they need special allowances or considerations, kind of thing. So I think that's why it's great what the work that the mind.org.uk are doing. And I'm so happy to see that that you're have championed this campaign using Jonny's work as well in collaboration with the group too. Because again, we need to just bring these things more into the dialogue and understand that many of us deal with these situations. You're not alone.
No, you're not alone.
Yeah.
I suffered from... I have no mental health issues at all. I am the 3 in 4 out there who is not considered at having mental illness, except to say that I had a severe bowel issue, ulcerative colitis, which I think was a manifestation of extreme stress at work, which you could translate as a mental illness. It's just that it did not manifest itself from the neck up. It was from the tummy down. And there were things that could be done for me in a physical matter. And so in the 21st century, in 2017, I was lucky and Jonny was unlucky. There was no sense of pills or medication or, here you go, take these, inject this, and at some point you will be cured of this malice. For me, it was a physical illness. So all I want to say is that there's a wide spectrum of illnesses that can be created through mental problems, and never ever to be ashamed, and talk to your loved ones, talk to your neighbours, talk to your friends about things, because we need to be progressive and think about what mental health is.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you before you go, what kind of advice would you give people who might feel like their friends are possibly suffering from some kind of depression?
Get in touch with Mind. Talk to your nearest and dearest. Talk to support groups. Talk to your peers. And never be ashamed to feel weak by what you're saying. Open up. And that might be a very difficult, easy, glib thing to say on the radio, because I'm just a stranger to the person listening. But hear my story, hear our story. You know, we both knew Jonny, and you had a family member who went the same way. We should all learn from these things so that hopefully a life can be lived.
Yes, man.
Yes.
Definitely.
And so we heartily recommend the book Striker Boy. Check what are all the links to share with everybody then.
Thank you for doing this. Go to @StrikerBoyBook on Twitter. Go to strikerboy.com where you can order the book. There's also an audiobook, and the bloke who voiced it is absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
I've got a feeling it sounds familiar.
It's really good. Nat Dixon stood at the top of the tree. He was a winner.
We might have to get a drop from Johnny Gold, right?
This is Fubar Radio. There you go. That's one for later.
Yeah. You can invoice us, yeah. But,
Is that how it works?
Yeah, well, I don't know about that.
I want to
Sarah's getting carried away there, boy.
I want to try on your glasses. I'm putting glasses.
There
Sorry,
you go.
no, go on, Mike. Continue. What were you going to say?
What I was going to say was, really enjoyed chatting to you about this as well, man.
It's my pleasure. Really, it's a pleasure to come in.
And definitely, everybody got to look out for that book. Try and support as much as you can. And we're going to talk to Fisky next week about another event that is going to be involving the Mind group. So
really pleased about
and
that.
this is
makes
all
sense.
part of World Mental Health Day, which is tomorrow, the 10th of October. Hashtag mental health, and definitely check out the book strikerboy.com.
And you were the first interview I did. I'm doing a whole series of BBC and independent radio interviews tomorrow, but you guys.
Oh, really?
We're glad to be your warm-up, man.
Yeah.
It's a
We
Fubar
appreciate
exclusive.
being part of that.
It's more than that. You're like the top of the tree. It's like you're the
Basically,
main,
Now
main
you're just
event.
walking your way down.
The main event. You're like the Anthony Joshua at the top.
Well,
and
I
then
didn't want to
the
say
undercard.
it, but
The undercard
Yeah,
is
undercard
BBC
is-
London and Talk Sport, isn't it? You know what I mean?
I didn't
Wicked,
want to
man.
be the one to say it, but yes. But thank you so much for coming to visit
It's
us,
my
Johnny Gold. And
absolute
it's so
pleasure.
nice to meet you again, because we realised that, we probably met at Johnny and Fee's
20 years ago.
wedding. Yes,
So what you been
20
up to?
years ago. I know.
Fade us out.
Yeah, so, but thank you so much for coming through. And we'll be sharing all the links for Striker Boy on via the Fubar Twitter as well. And this is all in conjunction with mind.org.uk. So check it out. It's super cool. Thanks so much for coming through. And coming up next, it's some more football-themed guests on the show. This is all quite outside my jurisdiction.
About your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Or maybe I'll stay on then.
Yes, but no, keep it locked to Fubar Radio. This is Hip Hop's and brand new Rhapsody for you.
It's